When we inquire into the history of theater, into the origin or the ontology of theatrical performance arts, we are met with many theories. For example, we have the theory of imitation of behavior. We have the theory looking back at hunter-gatherer tribal people. We have the theory of, perhaps it was a method of teaching the hunt to the younger members of the tribe. Perhaps it was a way of ritualistic storytelling, a manner of teaching or initiation or expressing events that were significant to the tribe. But all of these theories separate theater from intrinsic beingness. If we look at nature for a minute and we forget the philosophical categorization of ontology and origin and history, if we look at nature for a moment, the way that the flowers raise and bow to the sun in its magnificent glory as it makes its triumphant return day in and day out, as the animals pause, as the fox pauses in its trot through the forest of dawn, as it gazes upon the sun for a moment in contemplation and awe, the sniffing of the grizzly bear for the honeybees and the sound of the bees, the serenade of the frogs as they sing their chorus clothed in the sylvan veils of moonlight. Is this not all theater? Is this not all theater that is automatically generated and intrinsic to the genius beauty of being, of nature? Is it not natural for theater to express itself upon the stage of life? Are we not the lenses through which infinity gazes upon itself, the windows of eternity upon the stage of cosmic life? If we look at the components of theater and we break it down to the observer, the observed, and the script writer, we find that we have 3 points. It always takes 3 points metaphysically to create a reality. This is the mind of the seer. This is the mind of the infinite. Aspects of self-examination. This is how the infinite beholds itself. And how does the infinite behold itself? By expressing us, its individuations, its lenses, its crystal seer stones through which it perceives aspects of eternity, through nature, through the serenade of birdsong majestically filling the mountain with the ode of spring and the renewal of life, the greening viriditas, as Saint Hildegard of Bingen would say, the greening power of God as it climbs through the roots and the branches and seethes through all life with the yearning of expression and I am. To be inherently has within it to express, to experience, to behold. The observer and the observed, the audience and the stage players are but 2 aspects of the same mind, of the infinite mind. And when you see that they're actually inseparable, that the infinite self is beholding itself, then you see that there really is no mind. The scriptwriter is merely the expression of the observer and the observed in mutual, perpetual alchemy. I gaze upon you, therefore I create my environment. We dream our environment. In your reality, I am an expression of you. You express me into being. Likewise, you are an expression of me. I express you into being in my reality, because we are each the creator of our reality, and we co-create with the infinite self by contributing the unique perspective that we see that we see. As we see, what we focus on, we strengthen. As the eyes gaze upon the vast, unfathomably limitless ocean of being, we illuminate aspects of eternity with our gaze. We illuminate through emphasis, through performance. Performance is both experience and expression. It is both expressor and expressed. We stand on the edge of time and space. In the moment, all realms and all times are anchored. Time is not some linear line or string that has a measurable past and future. It is all rushing together in the moment. The moment is the stage of changeless change, the theater of the infinite. We examine through theater. So examination tends to sound like some sort of scientific endeavor or premeditated execution of faculties. But if you look at the naturality, the naturalness of an audience as the many and the performer as the one, through the integration of the one and the many, do we have body? Does the infinite find form through which to perceive itself? We can't be and not self-examine. Self-examination is intrinsic to beingness, because what we see is therefore created. We are seen within the infinite as aspects of infinite self. Therefore, we are created. The word creation is misleading because we think that it is something that is produced outside of the creator or somehow spewed out from the orifice of the creator. But in fact, it is areas of the creator that are emphasized through self-examination, through focus, through seeing. I see this aspect of myself, thus it is what I express. I express what I see, and I see what I am. The heart is the microphone which manifests whatever we feel or perceive. It has no bias. If we don't like our environment, change our focus, and our environment also will change. There's no separation between environment and observer. We are the audience of our own play. The script writer is the expression of the mutual beholding of observer and observed. Theater is not something we create. Theater is something that we are. By being, we are a theatrical performance. Time and space allow us with tools for experiencing, because if we did not have a way to remember what we expressed, then we would not have the self-knowledge of that expression. And so memory serves that tool of building experience. But as we evolve beyond the I am, therefore, or I experience, therefore I am. We evolve from the I experience to the I express, therefore I am. Because then we no longer need to hold on to memory banks of repeated histories. That will just form an imprisonment of reflection, of reflective hard surfaces which create fixated identities. It becomes an imprisonment. Consciousness always acts as a tyrant until it is mastered as a tool. So we have outgrown our infancy. We know that we express, we know that we experience, and when the observer and the observed are beheld as a singularity, then we know that there actually is no mind as we have defined mind to be. Mind is simply a tool by which to have this self-knowledge in experiential dialogue, not dialogue that is looping around analytically, but a dialogue that is a question and answer, the musical question and answer of the chant of life, the song of the heart, the song of the self. It is with the heart that we sing the environment. It is through the heart of the infinite that we are sung. Theater is the nature of life. It is not the product or the experimental end result. It is not a put on. Rather, it is the experience of self-expression. It is the self-examination in automatic action. Now, when I say automatic, I don't mean robotic. There is a huge difference between robotic reaction and automatic action. Let's take a moment and look at robotic reaction. Well, robotic reaction can only take place as a result of programmed thoughts, as a result of programmed responses to life that are pre-entered, pre-programmed. Programs form boundaries because they have limitations, hence it becomes a matrix, it becomes an imprisoning enclosure, it becomes the tyranny of mind and of memory. When we think that, oh, okay, I'm going to make up an identity here, just to use an example, that I am Sally Smith, I was born in New York City in 1935, thus this is who I am, I go to work every day, to the grocery store, etc., etc. That limits our consciousness. It may provide a framework for relativity, but when we realize that the observer and the observed are a singularity that is also a continuum, there is no need for identity-based reference points. There is no need for robotic reaction, which only has a limited repertoire of memory-implanted responses to life. We are expressions of source. Hence, we are also the source of our sustenance. To imagine that we are separate from source will only cause us to wallow in hopelessness and guilt. Hopelessness and guilt are the symptoms of thinking ourselves in any shape, way, or form separate from source. Our being is our sustenance, and as such, we arise through pure inspiration. The inspiration of being is what prompts automatic action. Robotic reaction is prompted simply by defensive memory cues that are used to cope according to what worked in the past. Automatic action that is propelled through inspiration arises out of the now, arises out of the moment, which is the crossroads of eternity, which is the anchor of all spaces, of all realms. Space and spaceless space are sung into existence. Frequency determines the shape of form. Time is the movement of awareness through space, or the sung self-examination, the song of self-examination. When I sing, I feel what hears me. My cells hear me. My cells sing with me. There is no separation between the listener and the singer. We vibrate in a unified symphony. We perform our experience because we are expressions of source, arising out of the pure inspiration of the now. Self-examination, when it is fueled by inspiration, becomes incorruptible, endless discovery. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys are connected to the process of self-examination, and it is said that the life force is stored in the kidneys, and that eventually, as the life force is used for sexual procreation, for the expenditures of living, that the life force runs out and the body expires and dies. But that is only the case if we are limited within self-reflection, within robotic reaction that is based or fueled upon what worked in the past, upon the identities of the past, upon the stories of who I was instead of who I am. When we arise in the pure, spontaneous inspiration of the now as expressor and expression of the infinite, then that life force is eternally renewed, because it doesn't become stagnant or mediocre in yesterday's truth. Yesterday's truth is today's mediocrity. Life force is fueled by the freshness of our ancient newness, by that which arises spontaneously in the moment, which is incorruptible, eternal, ever renewing, perpetual, eternal life force, then enlightens the kidneys, when the kidneys are the true tools, not the tyrants, but the tools of consciousness through which we behold and express. Self-examination is concurrent with self-expression. We behold ourselves as the expression is expressed. Just as my cells hear my voice as I speak, and thus take shape according to the perceptions and frequencies of my word. The word is made flesh with every second, with every moment that I sing myself into existence. Theater is made alive in every moment because it is intrinsic to life. It is the stage and self-examination and script that is spontaneously spoken as the infinite feels itself discovering through the self-touching of formless form. Theater is intrinsic to being, because to be is to see and examine and experience and express the infinite self. When we live in the knowing of absolute oneness, that nothing can exist outside of ourselves, there are no tyrannies. When we are able to have the disciplined spontaneity to emphasize observer and or the observed, to alternate in emphasis upon inspiration without denying the pole that is not emphasized, allowing their coexistence even as we emphasize one, does not mean that we have to submit to or perpetuate the law of compensation. When this emphasis is masterfully achieved, which does not deny expression to one pole while emphasizing the other within their unification, then we have the lucid dreaming of no mind, the lucid dreaming of the observer and the observed as one. Why is there no mind? Well, what is mind but a type of membrane? And what is the purpose of membrane, the true purpose of membrane, but to be a vibrating eardrum that resonates to infinite intent? The mind disappears in the notes that are sung in the silence between the notes. It is then that we express and experience the theater of resurrected matter, and by contributing our unique perspective as spontaneous observer and observed, we contribute as co-creators of infinite life.